In our current Zimbabwe today, it is sad to note that every day in our local papers there is a case of rape. Are the current penalties not good enough to stop perpetrators from committing crime? This is ZimdiTv and welcome to This and That. In the studio today I have two gentlemen who are going to help us understand what rape is and the current penalties that are there for us to uphold the morals of our society. Gentlemen, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
May you kindly introduce yourselves to the viewers?
All right, my name is Chakanesa Rusvidzo. I'm the Programs Development Manager with Shangwari Mwanaskana. I'm also an avid girls' rights activist, and I am not apologetic about it.
Okay, thank you so much for coming. Over to you.
Let me start by greeting our viewers, the multitudes of them out there. My name is Temba Nzounenda, the National Organizing Secretary for Varume Shinurai Vukani Madoda Men's Forum Trust of Zimbabwe, which is an organization formed in 2010 to fight and advance the rights of men and the boy child. And we believe in so doing, we are also fighting for the rights and the well-being of the fair sex.
Okay, I think this platform is quite interesting. We have Chakanesa Rusvidzo from Shangwari Mwanaskana, and we've got Temba, who is also upholding and protecting the boy child. I'm going to start by Chakanesa. I would like to have an understanding of when we say rape, what are we referring to?
Okay, rape is basically the forceful, non-consensual, vaginal sexual intercourse, which occurs when the other being is much more in a more superior position or in a more superior dispensation as far as the mentality is concerned over the victim whom he or she would be abusing.
Okay, so you're saying when you are talking about rape, it's only referring, the girl can only be raped, the boy cannot be raped?
According to the law, rape applies to the girls. Okay. It does not apply to the boy. Boys, they are said to be sodomized, not raped.
Okay, so I would like to hear from you. What's your take when the law says rape, there are measures that are there in order to stop girls from being raped? What is your take as you're protecting the boy child? How do you see the current laws as an organization?
I suppose you are referring the question to me.
Yes.
Right. My first take is, maybe if I go back to Rusvizo's definition of rape, it's mainly premised on the issue of non-consensual, right, and the issue of penetration. Right. And now, when I look at the current law, we've since viewed it and we've made presentations before Parliamentary Portfolio Committee and the thematic committees at the Senate level to have that law amended in order for it to reflect the most desirable position where we prefer our rape law. And like in other countries like Korea, the United States, South Africa, where the rape law goes further to even protect the vulnerable boy child, because the issue of penetration is there. If I go back to Rusvidzo, you will find that he talks about sodomy, but in sodomy there's an issue of consent in it. Consent is there, but just the act is outlawed. But then we go on to say there is another law that they say a law is equivalent to the rape law, which is aggravated indecent assault. But you find now, in aggravated indecent assault, that's the law that covers the boy child in as far as issues of non-consensual and penetration is concerned. Because we can have things like anal sex, which may be unwanted. But still, why have so many pieces of legislation when we are protecting just the same vulnerable group? So we should have our rape law covering every vulnerable group where the issues of consent and penetration and criminality can be addressed.
Okay, thank you so much. Maybe just for interest's sake, we are going to look at Zimbabwe the current time. What are the cases that we are receiving? Are we receiving more cases on vulnerable boys, or we are receiving more cases on the girls? I'm just going to pose the same question to you, starting with Chaka.
Okay. Generally, the statistics mostly point to the feminine sex, who are girls. Unlike on the other side of boys, that is the said reality on the ground that we have, because mostly it has to do with issues of socialization, issues of ego as well. For instance, Zimbabwe is a patriarchal society. Within a patriarchal society, it's a matter of men being told when we are still boys that you don't cry, you are strong, you have to be resilient. Unlike on this other side of girls, because you know the way that tradition says it, the way that even religion says it, because when we say 90% of the country is Christian, Christian says men, they are superior to women. You know, we talk of issues of submission. We talk of men being the ones who lead prayer, who also lead the house. Even the same with tradition, it says that they are supposed to be leaders. When a boy is 3 years old, anotonzi baba within a household, and the mskana is to say baba, you know, to the boy. So you know, all those things. Looking at those as the background information, when we come back to the issue of rape that we are talking about, it now contributes to the fact that girls are the ones who report mostly when that occurs. But I'm not saying that boys do not have any kind of sexual violation that occurs at their part. But the said thing is they don't report as often as girls report.
Okay. So from how you explained it, is it because that maskana wakaunda ndovakumoripota macases and maybe macases acho akafanana? Is it because of the society that we are living in? Kuti mukomana cannot report. That's why we are not finding mapepa akanyorwa mukomana azonzwai mukomana azonzwai. Why is it vasikana vakawanda ndo vatirikwana vachiramba vachiripota?
The sad thing is vasikana vakawanda, as you indicated, kuti ndo vari kuwanda vachiripota. Zvikuita kuti vasikana varipote, it's because there are mechanisms and systems which are there, which are very conducive for musikana kuti aripote. When we look at organizations that are there to support vasikana, there are quite a number, and organizations which support women, there are quite a number, as compared to the organizations that support boys and men. So within such a setup, you can see kuti girls have got that sort of advantage, or they have got that certain conducive environment inovabvumidza kuti vaite sei vataure and kuti vateererwe. Also, looking at another aspect, when we talk of even toda kutarisa rape in its forms, there is issue of pedophiles, okay. Those who target the young girls, you know, who are still toddlers and the like, the very, very small ones. Those ones, because of their biological makeup, they can't be able to resist or to fight off against a perpetrator. So within such a setup, to not turn out is really visible, steric, because look at it, a 5-year-old has been raped. Her organs are not yet ripe. Kutanga achita a woman. Biologically, she's still biologically, and it's visible enough. You know, the consequences are not words. And looking at also my myth, within the past few years, having sexual intercourse with a virgin, a person healed of AIDS. So those are some of the things that was kind of any vulnerability. So the vulnerability aspect is more inclined on the feminine side than on the boys.
All right. Thank you so much. I would like to ask you, Temba, how many cases have you received to report to you to they've been sodomized?
Right. Maybe before I get to that, you had earlier on posed a similar question to both of us. Let me start from there.
Okay.
Right. We, as an organization, have refused to be guided mostly or predominantly by statistics in the fight against sexual abuse. Why? Because it will exclude the other vulnerable group from being classified as a vulnerable group. Right? One of such ways that we've fought such is fighting this acceptance amongst society of violence against men. Right? You've often seen in our streets or in our location, in our residential areas where kana murume akabuda pachinzi ne sex worker auna kundibhadhara, he can be stripped to the bone.
Yeah.
And people will be laughing and taking videos. But if a woman if the same happens to a woman, very many people will rush nema Zambia vachimukavha mukadzi iyeye, meaning kuti there's an acceptable level of violence or sexual abuse that can be meted against men, which society is prepared to ignore. You see where I'm coming from? So we've often refused to accept this violence against men, and also we've chosen to ensure that the same support mechanisms that are given to the vulnerable feminine constituency is also accorded to the masculine constituents. Because kungove murume does not stop you from being sexually abused. So this is where the angle that we are tackling everything from, all our programs from. And then the issue of pedophilia. Pedophilia is just the criminal and insatiable appetite for the young children, for which the boy child is also vulnerable to. And we should fight to protect all those that are vulnerable. Okay. Now, coming to the statistics. Statistics, we've often used statistics to guide us as to what resources we should allocate it to which program that supports which vulnerable group. But it does not take away the element of criminality. Whether it's 5 men that reported against 2 million women, we still need to protect the 5% from the other group. Now, the statistics, I may not have them offhand, but we've seen a considerable increase in the number of reported cases. They are not coming in as rape. Some people may take it to the police station as rape, but then you'll be corrected, because if it's recorded as rape, it will not stand the test of time in a court of law. Okay. It will just be thrown out because there's no rape of boys. It will go there as aggravated indecent assault or indecent assault or sodomy. And the law is very clear on that. They say aggravated indecent assault carries the same penalty as that of law. But when you go to the courts of law, when somebody is being prosecuted for aggravated indecent assault, they are given different sentences as those that are being convicted because they have committed rape. Okay. And this is why I said in the beginning that the rape law is discriminatory, and at the moment we continue to say the rape law covers the vulnerable girl child and woman only, we will continue to reverse discriminate against the vulnerable male constituency. So what I can say for now is we have also a problem with our law enforcement and our justice system. If you go there today, they will tell you they do not even have a database of how many men are being sexually abused. Okay. Why?
You as an organization, I think that's the role that you play.
We've tackled that and we've impressed upon these guys. We've even gone up to the level of parliament. We've at one time contemplated engaging the state president, but it's not easy to get to him. But we've engaged parliament several times to ensure that, for example, you see women speaking with one voice through the Women's Parliamentary Caucus. And we've often impressed upon the male parliamentarians to also come together and form a male caucus, so that when it's an issue affecting the male constituents, we should have them speak with one voice. But the problem that we've had over the years is politics, where people want to be voted into office. I've often said this on air, and it's on record, that we've often seen politicians going before an apostolic sector or any other church gathering, and they speak only political messages, and they forget to talk about the underage girls that are pregnant and are wives to the senior members of that religious sect.
Okay.
So we are all...
Just short before you proceed, you have mentioned that you have approached the parliament, you've approached different people. What could be the main reason that your message is not able to be heard by them?
Two specific things. One, women have made their gains in the struggle for empowerment. So anybody seen to want to advance the cause of men and the boy child is wrongly viewed as wanting to reverse the gains that women made. So even if you want to fund a program that I'm doing for the boy and for the men, you are automatically discouraged from coming out in the open and support such, however good it is, because you are viewed as wanting to reverse that, to reverse the gains that women made. And then secondly, political culpability, where politicians want to be voted into office by advancing those causes that they do not even believe in, at the expense of the objective agenda of removing criminality and abuse in our societies. And like I was just trying to explain, that we've seen and they stand before, there are multitudes and multitudes of girls, pregnant, wives to church members there. But nobody mentions it. Mwana uya nenhumbu mwana mudiki. Anditi akarorwa sei mutemo wedu uchirambidza. They don't talk about it because why they went there is to canvass for votes. So I call that political culpability. And then maybe the third one, most of the struggle to remove this or to paint only men as perpetrators of sexual offenses is driven by misandric biases, where we have some people who are naturally against men. Some people naturally hate men. They lack objectivity as to why they should be doing such a thing.
Maybe just asking, where is this hate coming from? Is it not
like my colleague has alluded to earlier on, Zimbabwe is a patriarchal society. And as an organization, we have no apologies to make for it being a patriarchal society. Because if it had not been a patriarchal society, it would be a matriarchal society, and we would still have the same problems that we are talking about now. But I would say socialization has played a great deal of disservice to this fight for us to have databases and support programs for the boy and the men in the fight against sexual abuse, against all vulnerable groups, be it women, be it men.
Okay. I'm just going to ask you, I think both of you all deal with cases that are happening. Yes. Chaka, I would like you to maybe highlight some of the cases that you're receiving. Because as far as I'm concerned, the local news right now is talking about rape cases and maybe sexual abuses that you've stated. Can you just maybe share one or two cases that you've received as an organization that is pointing to abuse?
Okay, thank you so much. We have received a number of said cases as Changware Mwanaskana that go along the way of the girl's vulnerability. And before I divulge further, the vulnerability of the girl child has always been a subject matter that we have got lasting effects on the girl child. For instance, girls often drop out of school as a result of being raped. You know, that means they've been jeopardized of their future when that occurs. So, you know, the effects on the girl child are long-lasting as compared to the effects that occur to the boy child. For instance, I also add on that, you know, it's not easy to live a life where you have got a child who is a product of rape. You know, we need to catch two nae. And also, we have to jeopardize even my issues are good if you want to get married again, and if you have got that background, you know, itself, you have to jeopardize the girl child. 5 years, when it happens, there are issues of fistula, where the vaginal as well as the anal passage would be one system. That means, as a result of rape. let me go now into the...
Okay, just
to maybe try and address misconception. Yekuti, the effects of sexual abuse are worse on the girl child than they are on the boy child. Okay. I beg to differ, because some of the perpetrators that you see today is because we ignored them when they were abused. When we ignore a victim, like for example, if we continue to ignore the boy children as vulnerable in sexual abuse, we are grooming future abusers. That's no patinos kutika in the end, no patinos rape. And the moment we talk about rape, it means we are talking about a feminine issue where the perpetrator is the masculine subject. You understand where I'm coming from? Okay. So the effects are as bad on the boy child as they are on the girl child. Okay. Yes. Because there's a ripple effect where ukamwitira education iye anozoita izvo because akaneglectwa haana kuwa na rehabilitation. Anditi haana kuwa na rehabilitation, saka munhu iyeye anofungidzwa kuti ndo mararamiro akabviswa pamwe nemukadzi. Anditi kana right, anotofungidzwa kuti ndo mararamiro andirofanira kuita nemunhu wechikadzi. Okay. Anofana kumabviswawo in return. Some people are vengeful. They've got a vendetta against the fair sex because of what happened to them in.
So you are saying the main effects that a boy can have is for him to be bad?
No, that's what I'm saying. Those are some of the symptoms that you see. That
but what are some of the effects that you can really point out to, this boy has been abused in the near future? What are the effects that he can face? Yes,
one, he can be a future abuser. Two, they can withdraw from society and you will not be able to. They can become socially dysfunctional. They cannot even communicate with you. They cannot even relate to you. They withdraw to a secluded corner where they are even afraid to speak out, where they view every woman that comes along or every man that comes along as a potential abuser. You see, they don't see anything positive in relating to the next person.
Okay, but comparing to the effects that a girl can undergo and the boy can undergo, are we not seeing that the girl is more prone is more affected rather by
in what sense? In what sense? Because if there's penetration on a boy, all his muscles are torn. Okay. If there's a penetration on a girl, she's not ripe and mature for penetration, her cervix will be damaged. Okay. You see, this is what I'm saying. The damage happens in different positions of their anatomy, but there are damages that can be life-threatening and that can also be lifelong.
Okay. Maybe back to you, Chaka. Can you just continue with the cases that you received?
Okay, I'll continue with the cases, though I wanted to respond, but let me continue.
You can respond, you can continue.
Okay. Basically, when we are looking at female anatomy on its own, as I indicated, it's the sad thing is, you know, a woman bears a child. There is a seed that is left within a girl when rape occurs. Let me not just look at the age, which is very young. Let me look at the age, which is now starting menstruation. You know, it means that the ovaries are now ready to receive, you know, the sperm. When sperm enters the ovaries, it means there is going to be conception, which is going to occur, whether it's voluntarily or involuntarily, like in the case of rape. So when that occurs to a 12-year-old, one, actually, she's not yet mentally capable to handle the effects to do with being a mother. And secondly, you also look at fact equity. She can't give birth normally. She can't have a normal vaginal delivery. She will need to go for the cesarean section. Thirdly, we would look at aspects of, you know, as he indicated, that her cervix can be damaged in the process. Because, you know, her organs are not yet ripe. According to the World Health Organization, they say that a woman's body becomes ripe at the age of 21, 22. And she's not supposed to give birth after the age of 37, according to the World Health Organization. So, you know, there is a certain period in which a woman can have, you know, that you know, that fertility that she requires and where she's supposed to give birth and be a mother. When it happens to a girl, it means we've deprived her of her rights, of her sexual and reproductive health rights. They are being deprived in the process. Also, going back, you know, once that has happened in the life of a girl child, it lasts within her life forever. As I indicated, that, you know, I talked of issue yekuti, you know, the life yekuti aende kuchikoro yatokatwa short. Because according to tradition, when a girl falls pregnant, anofana kuenda on the one who is responsible. But when a boy is abused, ana one responsible vari kunzidzokera kwaari. When a girl akanonoka kuyakumba, ari kunzi enda kwakati kwawabva. But mukomana akanonoka kuyakumba, haadzokere kumba. You get it?
Can you just respond to that?
Yes. We have legal instruments to say now, if a girl is impregnated at school and the boy is also in school, they both leave school. They are both expelled from school to go and make sure there is the process of delivering is done, and then there's a time that they'll be readmitted back to school.
Okay.
I've often seen the problem that we've had is when we continue to debate what our forefathers used to tell us, that kure kare vanasikana vasingaendeswi kuchikoro. Do you have a daughter? Does she go to school?
Okay.
I have a daughter. Does she go to school today? Is it the same as it was 50 years ago? So should we continue to talk about 50 years ago, or we should talk about the obtaining situation, where we then say now that if a girl is raped, what support mechanisms are there? And if a boy is also sexually violated, are the same support mechanisms available to make sure that they survive that abuse? They are rehabilitated back into society. I think that is what has informed the formation of some organizations like Adult Rape Clinic, where even men can go there. But they don't say, this is an adult rape clinic, you have not been raped, you have been sexually aggravated. They will address it as rape. They will give you medication so that you don't contract infections, sexually transmitted infections. If it's a woman, they don't also further get impregnated in the process. You understand where I'm coming from? So I'm saying, whenever we want to put a program in place that addresses, I refuse to talk about rape at times. I want to talk about sexual abuse. When we want to put programs that are sound and objective, that produce results for our nation, we should look at programs that address sexual abuse where male vulnerables and female vulnerable are treated equally. I know a man doesn't have a vagina, so I will not expect a doctor to look at how their cervix has been damaged. But all the same, we are saying we should have support mechanisms that ensure that victims survive this case. And above all, we should have mechanisms that prevent such sexual abuses from taking place.
Okay, Chaka, you can continue.
Okay, thank you so much. I think this debate will go on and on for the sake of progress. We have had a number of cases, as I indicated, which are very devastating. I will point out to two cases of which we have handled. There is one where we had a girl. She's in Form 1. It was reported a few weeks ago. You know, who was taken advantage of by boys whom she grew up with in the community. You know, she treated them like her own brothers. So they invited her over for you know, as usual, you know, just come over to our place. We're having a party, you know, what happens nowadays. You know, they'll be listening to their music and relaxing. So when they invited her over, she was given a drink. And within that drink, it was spiked. And at the end of the day, all the boys, they took advantage of the same girl. The boys were more than 5 in total. And as soon as they abused her sexually, they threw her outside. She was thrown outside naked, outside on the lawn, naked. And then people came in taking photos. They were taking pictures, they were taking videos of the girl when she was, you know, lying there. When she regained her consciousness, That's when she realized what was occurring and what was taking place. And then the sad thing is that same girl, she was HIV positive. So that means at the end of the day, all the boys also contracted HIV from the act, which they thought they were taking advantage of, the girl who was in drunken stupor. So at the end of the day, she reported, and we gave her counseling. We made sure that she gets the health services that she requires. And then the case was reported to the police. And right now, the boys are out on bail. We managed to find 3 of them. 2 are on the run. They were granted bail.
Okay.
And the case is to continue within the courts. Then the second case that we have is that of a 5-year-old girl who was abused by her uncle. The uncle took advantage of the girl. He actually abused his trust. Where the girl was left in custody, he was left in custody of the girl when the mother went to church for an all-night prayer. And then in the middle of the night, he sneaked out of his blankets. He went over to the young girl's room and abused the girl. Unfortunately, her cervix was damaged, as well as the vaginal area was damaged. She ended up with fistula, which means the vagina is where the anal passage will be one. So she's still under, receiving medical attention, for it to be corrected. But the process to correct that is quite expensive, and it takes a very long time, to have the tissues coming back together. Fortunately, the perpetrator was arraigned before the courts. He was prosecuted and sentenced to 20 years imprisonment.
Okay.
That's really sad. But on the side of men, we've had numerous cases where men are given rights, and then they end up in the middle of nowhere, where they don't even realize or remember how they got there, but they can see that they've been sexually abused, where some have been given concussions. And I remember one case that we followed. It was in the media, it was all over. I think the man is a teacher. He's now working with crashes. He was abused by women that gave him a ride, and then the next thing, he was sexually abused and he can't walk on his own. And the sad thing, legally, where we also feel this passion to ensure that there's legal provisions made so that justice is saved, is when a case where women were caught with, you remember the story from, I think it was between 2010 and 2011, there was a group of women when this thing became popular, where the rights were given to men, and then the next thing they're abused, and the women are said to be collecting sperms for sale to unknown buyers. Some women were caught in Logwell with hordes and hordes of sperms of men, and then that case was taken up as rape. Like I said, it will crumble when it goes to court. And look at it now. There were reports in Harare of men having been abused. And then, instead of trying to find out who in Logwell or in the Midlands province has been abused where the sperms were collected, those women were arrested and brought to Harare for them to be paraded for identification by men who were raped in Murewa. You see, that's how cases of abuse against men crumble. It went all the way to court as rape, only to be dismissed that there's no rape for men. It was supposed to be, they were supposed to be investigated, and the appropriate charges preferred against the same women. But it was never done, and those women walked scot-free. Okay. And justice was never served to the various men that have made such. Like I said, the other guy, the teacher, is working, is with the aid of crashes now. The women were not arrested, they were not arraigned before the cause, they were not prosecuted. And nobody is saving time for that. And that's why I'm saying, we need to be fighting sexual violence, not rape. Because if someone is raped today, that's not the end of sexual abuse. They can also be fondled, which is indecent assault. They can also have something inserted in their eye, which is sexual. Right? That's aggravated indecent assault. A boy can be sodomized. They can do it willingly, but the law does not allow for such. So it's criminal. So we should be fighting the criminality that is associated with sexual abuse.
Okay. We're going to take a short break, and after the break we're going to be discussing on the current penalties both to the girl child and the boy child. Stay tuned.
Your views and comments are welcome on the program. Remember to like our Facebook page and our YouTube channel and be the first to see as it happens. Watching TV on the go. Sly Media TV. Building bridges.
Welcome back. We are still discussing on the issue of rape to the girls and sexual abuse to the boys. And right now I'm going to ask Chaka to highlight to us what are the current penalties for someone who has committed rape to a girl, and I'm going to ask Temba what are the current penalties to someone who has committed sexual abuse to a boy.
The current law, like the Criminal Code Act, it gives us room that a person who has committed an offense of rape will be liable to an offense, or should I say a sentence that does not exceed 20 years. That is the current setup on rape. Okay. Then secondly, there is another one which is called Section 70, the controversial one. The Section 70, which is having sexual intercourse with a young person or with a minor, which was formerly known as statutory rape. Statutory rape was outlawed. They now have having sexual intercourse with a young person. It states that the person can pay a fine of $100. Okay. Not exceeding $100 if they are convicted of a crime. It also states that they can commit community service as a result of having sexual intercourse with a young person, and or they can be jailed for a period which does not exceed I think around 5 years. It's quite minor as far as the sentences are concerned, the one which looks at having sexual intercourse with a young person, because it looks at how aggravated the Having Sexual Intercourse Act was like.
Okay, thank you so much. Over to you, Temba. What are the current penalties if a boy is sexually abused?
Right, the various abuses that can happen that are sexual to a boy or a man. Either aggravated indecent assault, or sodomy. I don't know if I left out something else. The other one is, of course, the verbal abuse, which can be sexual. It's not debatable. But you would find that the law stipulates that for aggravated indecent assault, it carries the same sentence as rape, which is a maximum of 20 years for a count. But if you've committed a number of counts, that's why you see the number, the likes of other guys, prominent guys in prison now, not wanting to mention names, but prominent guys in jail now, I think 2 in particular that I know, are serving up to 60, 40 years sentences. It's because they have multiple counts of rape. And then there's sodomy, which carries lighter sentences, because I think it was informed by the availability of sort of consent, but criminal. You see now, which is outlawed now. The consent is not outlawed, so nobody has got legal capacity to consent if they are men to engage in sexual activity with the other men. Okay. And then the other lighter abuses, they carry lighter sentences, but all is determined at law, but also discretionary according to how the person sitting up in the chair, the judge's chair, perceives how the crime was committed, the intention behind it, the likely consequences to the victim, and to society as well. So all those are informing factors as to how much or how long a sentence or how heavy a sentence that should be imposed upon a perpetrator of a particular of various crimes.
All right.
Yes.
You wanted to say something?
Yeah, I want to add also on rape. The courts are also saying that when they are talking of rape, it's 12 years and below. That's rape.
That's rape. Yes.
What becomes
for
of
age groups?
For age groups.
Okay.
Then for the others, as I indicated, there is a gap now within our law. Those who are aged 13, 14, 15, and 16, they are left in a vacuum.
Okay.
Because, you know, they are not considered at law to be raped. Because there is no law that supports them as being raped. But they would have fallen to sexual abuse. So you see the gap that we have in our law. Then when I was talking of Section 70, Section 70 also talks of consent. Where it's saying that at 16, there is consent. This consent, when it occurs, when let's say I'm 35, if I have sexual intercourse with a girl who is age 16 or 17, or even 17, 11 months, that can be something that can be only having sexual intercourse with a young person, because they can consent. So, in short, it means, also go on, you know, the Constitutional Court ruling of the Mudzuri Tsoponzi versus the state, which outlawed child marriages. It also looked at the issue of that every person, whether a boy or a girl, who is 18 years and below, you know, those who are below 18 should not get married. So now there's that gap which is saying, Rara inevana musarori.
Which is very sad. Which is very sad, and we've campaigned for these things to be aligned, where the legal age of consent should be aligned to the age where you are allowed to marry. You see now, because you know, mama 16 to 18-year-olds are never willing to marry, but vasingabvumidzwi nemutemo kuroora or vanga vatori prepared wokutotisa. And you see now, so we are giving in to a possibility yekuti vana vaabuswe. And when I say vana, to me vana means boys and girls who are below 18.
Okay. All right. I'm just going to ask you, like, taona makiza kaunda arikuitika society. Are the laws that are there currently enough to say someone anengada uripo munomofunga kuti nemtemo ya uripo, is it worth it, or can I really do it? Are the laws that are there currently able to restrain someone from committing crime?
The sad thing is that the laws that are there, they are not deterrent enough.
Okay.
You know, they are very good on paper. When you look at them on paper, they say something that can be upheld and that can be applauded. But now when it comes to sentencing, as my colleague rightfully said, that it depends with the person sitting behind the bench. This is the person who has got the final verdict, who actually states that, okay, Mr. X or Mrs. X, you are supposed to be granted so much, you know, when you commit that crime. So people are continuing with rape, with all the sexual crimes, which I can safely term sexual gender-based violence, you know, that they are committing. They are committing willy-nilly because, you know, when a person is given community service, you know, for having sexual intercourse with a young person, it means we've actually sanitized that it's okay for you to have sexual intercourse with a young person. So it's sanitized in the process. So when it occurs, people, they will know, Scott was there, he did this, and then he's back in the society.
So I can also do
so I can always do that. You see, so it doesn't give deterrent sentences when compared to stock laws which look at livestock. Ukaba mombe nasi, unyazoziwa 30-40 years, no negotiation whatsoever. So you now ask kuti, saka mombe akosha dodarika munhu, because you know we understand ye mombe ye wealth, but munhu ane value yakatowanda kudarika any other commodity, because we can replace mombe iyo, but we cannot replace me. You cannot replace you. So the thing is, you know, we need a revision of the laws. The laws have to be in harmony. The laws have to cover the gaps, as I indicated. Could we have got that gap? They have to cover the gap. They have to be harmonized. We need the laws to speak the same language. Okay. And to agree also with my colleague that we need to have one universal law that deals with all sexual offences. Of course, there is that Sexual Offences Act, but the Sexual Offences Act itself has got various gaps within it because it does not stipulate well enough on what really a certain account or a certain incident should be sentenced at the end of the day. So it has got a lot of gaps that it carries. So we need to have one law that looks at that. I was also at a certain forum where I indicated that we also need to have one child ministry. Okay. Also to deal with this issue. Because for now, we have got the Ministry of Health and Child Care. But when you look at the child care aspect, they are mostly on vaccination and immunization. Yeah. They are not looking at child care when they are looking at other aspects that have to do with the care of the child. We have the Ministry of Public Service, Labour and Social Welfare, dealing with children. But when I look at social welfare, I believe it has to be the welfare of everyone in society, not particularly children. You know, there are a number of ways in which children are affected within the laws, within the ministries. Also, the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education, it takes care of children. But if we have one children's ministry, it will be easy for us to have those laws that can be harmonized enough, that can be deterrent enough, that can give those perpetrators that they can be brought to book at the end of the day. That's why we can even advocate for penalties that, you know, are deterrent enough.
Okay.
Okay. I just wanted to add on to what my colleague has just said, that as an organization, Environmental Right has discovered that, one, there's no enough laws or punishments that cater for such crimes or for such perpetrators, and they can never be enough. But what we should acknowledge is the issue of protection at law should be a process, should be ongoing. We should continue to relook at our laws, identify systemic gaps within those laws that will help us ensure that we rather address the corrective aspect on a criminal than the deterrent aspect. Because some people are not even afraid or even deterred. That's why you find even soldiers going to war. They've been told that we are going to war as kuno fiwa, but they still go and face the enemy. Kune ma criminals akadaro, vari habitual criminals, and it vakazvarwa vakadaro vekuti toshaya toita sei anomupanzisa. So these people will never be detained in nemutemo because vamwe vacho vari toshaya chikafu kunze varoda kupinda mujeri. So what do you do with such a person? So what we should do is, for those that the law manage to punish, there should be that corrective aspect which is so sound to the effect that we do not bake hardcore criminals in our corrective setups, such that when they go out, they become hardened criminals. So I'm saying we should address those systematic gaps through a process of realigning and re-amending our laws to make sure that they capture these new tendencies and new techniques of attacking victims.
Okay. Back to you, Chaka. I would like to ask you, you've mentioned that there are laws to protect our animals more than my human beings. What would be your suggestion to say, if it's a lawyer cut, we think that this law is going to help in trying to protect Baskana Mukutirano?
Okay, as I indicated, if we have got one law which deals with sexual, gender-based violence, say that, you know, that law will capture everything so that our girls are protected, whom we advocate for, so that even the boys that he advocates for are protected as well. Because when we look at, you know, sexual violence, it's part and parcel of gender-based violence. So it would be prudent for us as a nation to have a sexual gender-based violence law, SGBV law. That is only one that we have as a nation. Also, to add on to the issue of these laws. You know, when we are looking at, you know, the systems or the mechanisms that we have, for instance, it's now called the Zimbabwe Correctional and what? Prison Services. Which means there's the issue of it to be correctional at the end of the day. Previously it was just the Zimbabwe Prison Services, but now they're looking at correctional, you know, elements being put in place. For instance, I was reading on the issue of castration itself. In other countries, it's not a matter of it being mandatory on a person, but it's a choice that the perpetrator is to make.
But
they are given room.
You suggest castration as an option for you to do on perpetrators?
Like on the issue of hardcore criminals, the habitual criminals, you know, they will be given that as an option. That is either you go to prison or you face castration. Okay. And then when they face castration, there is an element of counseling that is done, where doctors come in, like in Mexico, like in the UK, like in America itself. You know, they've got that platform where the perpetrators, they're asked and they are given the advantages and disadvantages of being castrated. Some, they go to an extra mile of being radicals, where they will even go for penectomy. Penectomy, which is the removal of the penis.
But would you suggest that as an organization?
No, as an organization, we stand from a human rights perspective, where we believe that, you know, in as much as we want corrective measures to be taken, we need also to take heart. We also need to have, you know, that human face at the end of the day. Removing a person's penis does not stop a person from being an abuser. There are many ways that they can abuse at the end of the day. So when we are talking of sexual gender-based violence, as I indicated, when we've got mechanisms that would have psychologists, counselors coming into the fray. When I talked of the correctional part of our prisons, it has to be functional. It has to be seen. It has to be visible enough so that, you know, we deal with these issues. Because at the end of the day, when we just rally, you know, when we say an eye for an eye, it's more like when we are saying we are castrating people, it's like, you know, chombo chawashandisa kuabuser ndochata kubvisa.
But I would want to ask, mutikati castration muno Zimbabwe, munenge da kukomita crime ambochkere uti kondikasodai.
You see now, let me come in there. I would say there is no one size fits all in terms of finding a solution to the scourge of rape. Right. By so acknowledging, we also acknowledge that there's no proportionate punishment for rape. We can only do that which we feel is deterrent and corrective enough. But is it? Remains discretionary. So, there must be scientific evidence. For castration to be considered as an option, there must be scientific evidence to show that that which motivated the rapist is caused by maybe hormonal or condition or medical conditions or high libidos, high testosterone levels. If there's such scientific levels, I would recommend castration, because castration is not just the outright removal. We can reduce the testosterone levels within you. That's still called castration. So if there's that evidence, scientific evidence to show that Rushizo here did it because he has got high libidos, then I would recommend it for that. But then if it's a condition, if it's a mental condition, we need to address that, because removing a penis or testicles only removes the means. It does not address the state of the mind. It does not address the motivation which comes from the state of the mind. Some of the people are sick up here, and they need to be put in psychiatric institutions so that they do not rape people, so that they are cured. You see now? So removing a penis does not stop that person from inserting a finger down a girl's vagina, from inserting a finger down a boy's anus. So we need to be guided by objectives which are influenced by scientific results, which show the motivation behind somebody. If somebody requires psychiatric help, they should go for psychiatric help so that they do not rape again. If somebody requires castration, they need to go for that so that we address the issue of testosterone levels and high libidos.
Okay.
Also to add on to what my colleague is saying, you know, when I indicated of the various countries which have got castration, because it's always good, if Zimbabwe is to adapt or is to adopt castration as an option, they have to look at the merits as well as the demerits. As he indicated, you know, when on chemical, because it's in two parts, there's chemical castration and physical. There are men, you know, who go through the process of being eunuchs, you know, in certain countries, you know, of certain states, you know, where they still have the royalty or the monarchies there. So that one is done as a physical means. They do it physically. So that because that person is being prepared, and it's done when they're still boys, because of a role that they will play when they are old enough. Now, when going back to our issue of rape, when we are talking now of the issue of castration physically, it's inhumane, because there are no considerations of the state of mind as indicated. They are not considered. Like I was reading an article on Indonesia, that Indonesia has got, you know, that process of saying that it's mandatory. Everyone who abuses a child is supposed to be castrated. You know, it's mandatory. There is no option that we have. What I'm saying now is we need alternatives that can work wonders. We need alternatives that can reduce the numbers. Because in as much as castration may be considered an option, in the United States, between 2010 and 2014, there were 80,000 cases of rape that were reported. In India, there were 10,000 that were reported. So it means now there's no reduction in rape cases because we have adopted castration. But if you are to adopt castration as Zimbabwe, we need to find an Afrocentric, a Zim-centric, position that works with Zimbabwe. Because, you know, it's like adopting all the other means that have come in the country just because everyone is doing it. The everyone is doing it syndrome has killed, you know, a number of good movements or a number of good campaigns. Because we just believe that, you know, because Ningi is doing it, so I should do it. So when we are to adopt castration as an option, let us look at the various factors surrounding it before we can say is the answer. The solution to rape, as he indicated, it does not have a one-size-fits-all. It is something that has to be it is multifaceted, because there are various conditions, there are various circumstances that, you know, prompt a person to rape another individual. So they have to be addressed. Some have to do with the background.